Hey ho, let's go. Return of the Living Dead. What do you know? Rap-a-tap-a-tap-tap-tap-tap-tap. Shibbity-boo-bop-boo-wop-ba-da-da-da. Welcome to another episode of the Jeff Show. So my endeavor over the weekend was a success. I did a 72-hour film challenge competition. We were triumphant and glorious. Big shout out to my team for helping to make that happen. Couldn't have done it without you guys. It's a lot of fun. You basically write, edit, shoot, direct, sound design, sound mix, all that stuff, everything, the entire filmmaking process, and upload it to its proper folder all within 72 hours. And that's what I've been doing since Thursday. It was a awesome success. And now I was like, I can't wait to get back to making regular videos again, or these YouTube videos. And so we're back. We're talking still about Return of the Living Dead, one of my favorite films. I can never stop talking about this film. I had such a good time talking about the novel that I was like, you know what? Let's talk about Return of the Living Dead, the book, this the complete history about the making of the film. Except the problem is, that's a great shot of Freddy that we missed. Maybe I'll start here with that. Hold on. First, I got to get my link. We got to set up the book cam, as I should call it. That's what it should really be known as, the book cam, not the other way around. Yes, Milton. Yo, what's up? Joined by our regulars, Rue Morg and Milton the Monster. It is party time. What's going on, Milton and Rue? Welcome, you guys. We're powering through. You guys have been with me. We're powering through this book. We're just gonna ram it home. I'm just finding. Do either one of you guys remember where we left off? I don't quite remember. I think we were at the tail end. Yeah, we were. Aha! I found it. All right, so we'll start a little bit. We'll pull it back just a smidge here. Yeah. Okay, I found our place. So I have our place. So like I said, we've been talking about this, and I'm going to actually post this in a few other spots. Okay? Just because why the F not? Why the F not? I just got to find my place here. Bear with me, people. I know this is not entertaining by any stretch of the imagination here. I'm going to grab that link. So yeah, it was definitely a productive weekend. I feel pretty good about that. It's a good feeling. Oh, there I am. I'm on TV. Look, Mom, finally on TV. It's my dream. Isn't it amazing to think that YouTube has given us the opportunity to become TV personalities? The everyman can be a TV personality if they want to. Sorry, guys. I'm just doing my little post thing. Kind of blows my mind to think about it like that. How's the mic sound? Mic sound okay? Okay, hold on. We're gonna rip it and roll it while my daughter is still asleep in just a few seconds. Oh, you know what? Why am I making everybody wait? Let's just do it. Everybody. Here we go. Where's our little link to the thing? So entertaining. I'm loving how entertaining this is right now. Here we go. Okay, we're in the studio now. Da, 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 da. Entering the broadcast studio. Hello. Look at that. We're going to call this book cam. Book cam. There we go. And we've joined. Whoa. There it is. It's crazy. Let's take off There we go. I could, when I hear it, look at that. Whoa, man. So are those all the Jeffs in the parallel dimension? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. We got to put our shades down. We don't want people to see what we're doing. Okay, let's talk. Let's talk Return of the Living Dead, shall we? Look, man. So we saw this photo before of Miguel just having a good time in the production office. And we talked about this over here. Here's what I really want to look at these photos. Wait. Oh, I lost them. Let's see there. Oh, okay, yeah. So here's some more photos. There's one of the Send More paramedic cops right here. It says Radio Corps number 2. He was played by David Bond in a Civil War uniform with a zombie extra. Look at that. So he's clearly on the rebel side, Confederate guy, comes back from the dead, gets killed in 1864, returns to life in 1985, craving brains. Figures out how to operate the whatchamacallit, the what's that thing called? The radio, the dispatch, and asks dispatch to send more. It's Grubhub, baby. It's Grubhub in 1985. And there's our 2 cops that get eaten up, get killed. You have Paul Cloud as cop number 2, who later becomes a zombie, with Robert Craighead as cop number 1. Sadly, Cloud passed away in 1987. I'm sorry to hear that. But there he is, immortalized. He would die 2 years later, but he's immortalized forever with us in Return of the Living Dead as cop number 2, who does turn into a zombie because he's out in the rain. And then here's our buddy. Look at this. There's cranky John Russo with a barrel. I may have met him, John Russo, once in the early days of the project, but had no dealings with him. I do not believe he ever came to the set, Graham Henderson. So even though he wrote the novelization, even though he wrote or helped to write Night of the Living Dead, even though he wrote Return of the Living Dead, the novel in 1978, he is really in no way involved with the production at all. He's just a guy who got to do some cool stuff. And I got to compliment him. I told him that. I said, dude, I love the Return of the Living Dead novel when I did meet him. And it was funny because I showed up. He's like one of those guys like, I get very uncomfortable in the convention scene. And I'll tell you why. I get uncomfortable because I don't want to pay for someone's photo. I don't. That's just not me. I've never paid to have my photo taken with someone. It's a weird thing. These transactional relationships, they're not relationships, these transactional interactions, I should say, the meet and greets, if I'm going to meet someone, I'm going to meet someone on my own, on my own terms, on their own terms. I'm not going to meet them because I paid to meet them. I just think that doesn't work for me. I don't judge anybody for doing that. There's a lot of people who do that and have a lot of fun. I don't want to take away from or shame you in any way. For me, it's a matter of like, I would feel uncomfortable, I don't know. It just, the whole thing makes me uncomfortable is basically what it is. And so I showed up extra early and I asked him for a photo, and I'm sure in the back of his mind, he was like, this guy should have paid me for my photograph. And I was just like, I don't know. It just was a weird situation. But yeah, that's something I've noticed about conventions. I don't know. I mean, I have no problem buying movies or posters or photographs. I'm just talking about the idea of getting something signed and paying for a signature is weird to me. It doesn't work for me personally. Just me, no one else. No judgment. I don't want to pass judgment on anybody. That's just the way I am. So there's our yellow cadaver. William Stout says, let George make his zombie movie and we'll make ours. The two end products were completely different from one another and intended so from the start. Because I guess when George's lawsuit in 1984, 1985 is because he's doing Day of the Dead and they're doing Return of the Living Dead. And, once again, as always with the misfits, with anything in life, brand confusion is always the problem. Brand confusion is a problem, man. It's just the way it is. So there you go. There is one of my favorite behind the scenes photos. It just shows you how scary, because you're like, yeah, that's a human being. That's not a zombie. That's a human being in makeup taking a goofy photo. But in my little brain mind, my little boy mind, I'm like, oh my God, that he is right next to Freddy, and Freddy is going to bite into his head. You know, there's Kenny, the makeup master, and that is Victoria Slaymaker at the bottom. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, this is Victoria Slaymaker with Kenny Myers and Thomas. They call them the Burns makeup. Matthews goes for a bite of Myers, and then the bottom picture, Victoria poses. So that is Victoria poses next to the paramedics ambulance. Prior to Return of the Living Dead, Slaymaker was a Universal Pictures tour guide. So she got her big break with Return of the Living Dead. That's pretty darn cool, if you ask me. And I believe actually maybe we might have seen some of these photos. I think we might have gotten here. Let me see. Don Calfa and Ernie had a good relationship with O'Bannon and even penned his own sequel, which he sent to O'Bannon for his approval. And that's Revenge of the Living Dead. That recently got made into a comic book. So Don was so enamored with the role of Ernie and the process of making this film that he felt the need, the urge, the desire to write his own sequel. Probably because he saw this as an opportunity to create a vehicle for him to be a star. Because Don Calfa's he's a character actor, man, primarily, and it's a shame. I've said this is the third episode I'm saying this in a row. I can't help myself. Could have been the Jeffrey Combs of the 1980s. Could have been. It's just a shame that Don was not more in the spotlight. He should have been. But he wrote his own sequel, and Brian Peck, who you are going to see right here, Brian Peck wrote his own sequel to Return of the Living Dead. So a bunch of people involved with the movie. Who should have written his own? There's one person who could still make a Return of the Living Dead movie and do it justice. It would be William Stout. William Stout could come in, theoretically. He was part of the original creative process. Came up with the original look of the film. That's not to say that he could not make his own Return of the Living Dead, and it would be sacrosanct, if that's the right word I'm using there. So here is Clue taking a nap on set, accompanied by first assistant director David M. Robertson. And here is Don doing Ernie, performs the autopsy on the mortuary corpse. The actor had a prosthetic chest, so Calfa was able to insert the trocar, that's the name of the long pointy needle, into him. Opposite is a cast and crew photo promoting the release in 1985. So there's the crew, and these guys have been together ever since, most of them. Whoever is still alive. Tom, Brian, Leanna, Miguel, Jewel. There's William Stout. These guys all knew each other, man, and still know each other to this day and are still tight for the most part. Marketing, Return of the Living Dead. Here, oh, man. Now, this stuff, stuff is so cool. So even though Bill Munn's special effects work, makeup stuff was not good, these photos of the zombie mask, they got used in all the promo materials, probably because money was wasted and they felt, well, we can incorporate this into our marketing department without revealing what the movie looks like by using these photos. I think it's a pretty good idea, right? I don't know what that is. That's Brian Peck kissing the half corpse. It's too late for mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, but wow, that is so cool. So these are the original marketing materials that were sent to theaters to promote the Return of the Living Dead. Send more cops. You see, okay, so this looks like this is a promotional. We never saw that. You never see this in the movie. This must be from deleted scenes. Like, I would love to see what this was and see the full thing. Look at that. Could you imagine how happy Tony Gardner is to see his half corpse on promo for that, like that? Tired blood, wake up and see Return of the Living Dead. And then look, you had buttons. What I wouldn't give for one of those trucker hats. More brains. So great. It's so great. Don't miss the opening that will prey on your mind. It's a movie with more brains. This is it. The movie with more brains. I love that, man. That looks like it's another unused promo shot. And then you have even more. So this looks I love how Rue casually says, "That would be an awesome poster for my dungeon." Like, I know what you're talking about. I have a dungeon as well. You're talking about like your man cave space, but it's just funny because like all we see is dungeon. Yes, unless you literally have a dungeon, Rue. I don't know. I don't know. Look at that. You don't see that one anywhere. Here's another one. Ghouls, graveyards, acid rain. What a great spot for a party. Man, I wish I had t-shirts of every single one of these things, man. Look at that one. See it with your best ghoul friend. These look like they might have been sketches. That looks like it's some sort of promotional sketch. Who knows? Is there laughter after death? Yuck, yuck, yuck. What a cool thing. I mean, the amount of effort and care that went into making this book, you know, it kind of blows my mind. Kind of blows my mind. So here are the foreign posters, and these go for lots of money today. I have seen some collectors with these posters. Look at that. That's Japan right there. There's Germany where they featured Don. You know, it's funny. A movie gets written. I always say this: a movie gets written 4 times, right? A movie gets written when you write the movie. A movie gets written again during production because things happen and you have to change things around. A movie gets written again in post production when you're editing and you're shifting things around. The feature length film I made, Romeo's Distress, I had to do a lot of rewriting happened in editing. But a movie gets made a 4th time. The 4th time a movie gets made is in the marketing. That's not to say that the movie itself, the narrative doesn't get changed, but the way that the movie is perceived in and of itself is a rewrite of the movie. And I can't tell you how many times have you read a synopsis on a box, wherever, where you sort of what the box says doesn't really describe what actually happens in the movie, and that's a marketing team trying to bend as much as they possibly can. There's a great poster. Look at that. That's the Italian poster. See how they feature trash. It's interesting how in Germany they put Ernie. It's like a comedy. This looks like a comedy in Germany, right? And then this looks like it's all about sex and death in Italy. This is another poster. This is from Japan, which I believe is on the cover of I'm using this for the thumbnail, actually, or something that's similar like this for the thumbnail. So that's and the movie in Japan is known as Battalion. Actually, it's called Battalion. This is what is this? Oh, this is Taiwan. So that's Taiwan. So they're spoiling what happens to trash. This is a crude Italian poster. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the UK poster. My bad. I'm reading these wrong. Above, below. This is the layout is weird. So below. So that's a UK poster, and that right there is another Japanese poster, and that's the classic VHS box art for Return of the Living Dead. That's what I know and love. What we all know and love. Are we gonna party or what? Beverly says, I took my sister with me. It was a nice party. I still have the matchbook from it. So they had matchbooks. I didn't stay very long because my sister needed to get home. That's a shame. So there are a bunch of the cast and crew at the thing. Look at that. That's the flyer. Party of Living Dead. Look at that. Who held on to that? Who is the genius that held on to this, man? Isn't that crazy? And the print for Living Dead that you see everywhere, that is the main title card. That was done by William Stout. Did that. It was his ode to Ralph Steadman. There's Don, and that's Tom Fox. Leanna, Tom, and James. Wow. Isn't that cool? Isn't that righteous? There's Don and Brian. I don't remember the rap party. I have no memory. I always have a good time at a rap party, and I don't even remember the food. Don Kalfa. Uh-oh. This is bad, you guys. We're done. So that was it. That was all this whole thick chapter. Look at this. So we're about halfway through the book. Halfway through the book is Return of the Living Dead, and then the other half is another four movies. This is the remaining four movies right there. And we're going to go through the rest of it. We're going through it all. So now that brings us into Return of the Living Dead Part 2. I think once again, the Return of the Living Dead series has some incredible art, promotional art that surrounds it. And this poster is one of my favorites. I love the art for Return of the Living Dead 2. I saw this box cover and I was terrified by Return of the Living Dead. Again, see my story from my Joe Vasta episode, Joe Vasta from JV from Mr. Monster for Pizza Punk, where we talk about how terrified I was. And this poster, this VHS cover art terrified me as a child. Terrified. I was too afraid to watch Return of the Living Dead Part 2 because of how afraid I was in Part 1. Look at the detail, man. You never really notice the homes at the bottom. I mean, we know that they're there, but then it just so iconic. They had VHS cardboard cutouts of this art, and it's just the bomb. So here's our director. There's Ken Wiederhorn. Wiederhorn? I don't know how to pronounce his name. I don't know how to pronounce anybody's name with the headless. Get that screwdriver out of my skull. Wow. Rue, I didn't know you were a tattoo artist, so you tattooed that art. That's pretty cool, man. Rue, do you do art as well? Are you an artist, Rue? Do you know how to draw, Rue? Kind of curious. Yeah, look at that, though. So there you go. There's Ken right there. And there is our three leads. So we know what happens in the sequel. You got the three boys, but the setup here is Jesse's a good kid. This kid literally starred in two iconic films from the 80s. He starred in Return of the Living Dead Part 2, not as iconic, but then he started the Blob remake. Both came out in 1988. I mean, this kid must have been the face of horror in 1988. I said, get that damn screwdriver out of my head. Yes, I'm an art. Oh, cool. Rue, you got to show me some of your artwork. I'm curious to see what it looks like, man. So and there's what's this kid's name? This kid's name is Thor, I think. Yeah, his name's Thor. And you know what's funny? We were joking on that last Blitzkid tour I did with Blitzkid, that Goolsby kind of looked like this kid with his hair all slicked back. We used to joke about that. And that's this kid gets it. We don't see what happens to him. He just sort of runs off. I mean, the setup is equally as scary, and it involves little kids dying and stuff, but it also feels like the tone is so much lighter. It feels like a kid's movie. It doesn't feel like a hard rated R film that it's billed. It feels like it feels like a Goosebumps. It's Return of the Living Dead if you were trying to do it through a Goosebumps prism, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I guess, why is this poster here? That's right. Ken had also directed Shockwaves. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? Shockwaves, which is the name of the podcast, one of my beloved podcasts, which sadly also got destroyed in 2020, the year 2020. That kid reminds me of Scott Vargas. I don't know who Scott Vargas is. Now I'm going to go Google this real quick, because you know me and the Googs. Scott Vargas. Let me see who he is. Taking a look. Scott Vargas. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Sorry. From the Xmas Story. Oh, okay. You mean A Christmas Story with Scott Far? Oh, yeah. Yeah, the kid the kid with the raccoon hat. Yeah, a little bit. I could see that. I could definitely see that. This is a great photo of Ken. I can't say that, but Rue says it for me. Thanks, Rue. And there's our dynamic duo re-teaming again. To tell the truth, I don't wait, what? Okay, so Ken, the director, says, to tell the truth, I don't have many fond memories of making this film. Ken, he didn't. He wrote and directed it. He doesn't like horror films. This is a guy who does comedy, doesn't like horror films, doing a horror film. If you don't like horror films, you shouldn't be making horror films, honestly. Like, what the hell? But it does bring James Karen and Tom Matthews back in new characters, trying to create some of that same chemistry that we love so much from the first film. And, I got to tell you, just reading and watching about this, even though I already watched Return of the Living Dead twice this year, I think I'm going to rewatch it again. So that's Forrest Ackerman right there. He founded Famous Monsters magazine, Forry Ackerman, as he's known. Look right here. One of Kenny Meyer's special zombie makeups on Forry Ackerman. The producer insisted on a more comedic look for the zombies in Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Isn't that cool? Ken says, I don't remember the original title. Fox and Laura Marr wanted a strong tie-ins to the franchise, so I offered to rewrite the Gravediggers so Tom Matthews and James Karen could play them. I thought it would be fun to reincarnate them. So, yeah, that's the other thing that people don't realize. Return of the Living Dead Part 2 did not start off as a sequel to Return of the Living Dead. It was a zombie film, or it was a story that would already existed and then got incorporated as Return of the Living Dead Part 2. And as Ken says right there, he had to rewrite it. I have a feeling we're not going to rap about this section as much as we rapped about the first section. Ken says, if I remember correctly, I think we had 34 days and there were 3 weeks of night shooting, which is not easy on the body. Look how tired they look. God, this book, the layout is put together so well. And there he is. There's okay. So I forgot their names are Ed. Trioxin infected Ed and Joey await their diagnosis from Doc Mandel. And below, Michael, that's his name, Michael Kenworthy and James Karen with friend Forrest J. Ackerman, who was cast as Harvey Kramer, aka the special zombie in Return of the Living Dead Part 2. And yeah, man, I mean, that's pretty heavy, man. Like, there you are with the founder of Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine. And there's Brian Peck in one of his many roles. Brian Peck was heavily involved with the production behind the scenes. I guess he goes, when Part 2 came about, I was under the impression that I would not be involved, which was disappointing. What I really should do, and I'm not doing this justice right now, but I don't have time to find it. Maybe I'll go back. I need to find out where Brian talks about trying to rewrite or write a sequel, and he talks about what that sequel would have been, in the same way that, I don't know if anybody realizes this, but Brian Usna did have a follow-up to Return of the Living Dead Part 3 called Hell Mary, and I didn't know about it until I got this book, and the concept and the idea blew my mind. Look at her. That's the librarian, and she has a cat. And he just Brian kept reinventing himself through different, he would do just different makeups and different personas. And Ken would just roll his eyes and go, okay, Brian, whatever you want to do. Tom Matthews says, I was disappointed by Part 2. It tried to make jokes which didn't pay off. Dan was an actor's director. Ken was a tool. Ouch. But it's true, man. It's true, in the very fact that Dan was the type of guy that would take James Karen's suggestion for how, his character, Frank, should end his life, and he took it, or his unlife, I should say. Look at those guys. They are super 80s up in the graveyard. Look at those wraparounds. That was all the rage. That was all the rage for old people, to have the wraparound sunglasses that could wrap around your own glasses. This is in the days before they chemically figured out how to change lenses. I was fooled. This is just basically like Ken coming to terms with like the reality of Return of the Living Dead Part 2. I was foolish to be too ambitious with too little money. There was no time for cast bonding when you're always putting out fires. Which, yeah, whatever. Thor, the kid. Now, Thor, this kid actually did an entire commentary on the DVD release, which I believe is hard to come by now, but it doesn't matter because Screen Factory's put it out, which I do have, and along with the poster in my basement, in my dungeon room. Yeah, but this kid did a whole commentary on everything, even the parts he's not in. I don't know. It's just weird. He's not an actor at all. He goes, I would go over the scenes we were planning to shoot and make sure I knew my lines. Ken was always really good about going over things in advance. That's from Thor, who for Return of the Living Dead Part 2 is not a Thor subject. Here's something that's interesting. Look at this. So Don Calfa was supposed to play the Doctor, I believe, right? Doctor Who. Both Philip Burns and Return of the Living Dead star Don Calfa would audition for the role of Jesse's drunken neighbor, Doc Mandel. How about that, man? You know what? I'm going to read this one thing because this is interesting. Because the returning cast always try to get in on this, the action for Return of the Living Dead 2 and 3, and they just were not allowed. Don Calfa says, well, I'd rather not go over this, but I'll tell you, I was up for the role of Doc, a drunken doctor. I read it and I didn't get it. It went to Philip Burns, who could be very good and very effective. He was an off-Broadway comic. I can't for the life of me remember if I saw the movie, and to be honest, I couldn't give a fair opinion about it. I know that I had written a sequel for our movie with Roger Carney called Revenge of the Living Dead, and I gave it to Tom Fox, and that was the end of it. I also gave it to Dan O'Bannon, who, by the way, loved it, which amazes me because he doesn't like anything much. Anyway, a gag wound up in the film of a severed zombie hand, of a severed zombie hand, and I thought, well, what are you going to do? So you say, I wouldn't say I was treated terribly. Me, Jimmy, and Clue, those two are pieces of Americano and are remarkable lead actors, and the three of us were the cornerstone of Return. But what are you going to do? I read for Wiederhorn again, and he never acknowledged that he had met me before. Now that Jimmy mentioned that, he and Tom Matthews rang me from the set one night, and it was a night, I believe, and they were saying, hey, Don, thank God you didn't do this movie. We're on our own, and we're shooting at night. I said, how's Phil Burns? And they said, he's just too over the top. But sometimes over the top can work. So there you have it, folks. It would have been Don in that role. And I think if you're going to reincarnate, James Karen and Tom Matthews, why not get Don Calfa? Would have made your movie better, I think. And there's Michael. He says, Michael and I could be kind of a handful. That's Thor. I think Michael Kenworthy was interviewed for this book. He surfaced on Facebook not too long ago, and he had a fan club. I don't really know how many people are really fans of that dude, but whatever. I adored Dana Ashbrook and still do. Now this dude is about to blow up on Twin Peaks, and right before that he did this film. So he's in the Return of the Living Dead 2 universe. I adore Dana Ashbrook and still do. We had a blast together. He's very funny and deprecating. I recall he would talk about his acting with his nostrils when he saw himself in the film. So there's Kenny with a burnt up cadaver right there. Kenny putting makeup on Brian Peck. Opposite, Return of the Living Dead's 2's unlikely hero, Tom Essex, played by Dana Ashbrook. And above, so Kenny went from part 1 to part 2. He came back. And this time, Myers was able to build his team around him and start discussing ideas before production began, because he just jumped in when things were already set in stone. And lastly, one of Kenny Myers' makeup artists applies makeup to Brian Peck. So Tom Matthews says, wouldn't have done it without James Karen. These guys wanted to, I don't blame them. They wanted to rekindle the magic that they had in part 1. They bonded, they had a good time acting together, and they wanted that experience again. And it turned out to be a mistake. But who can blame someone for wanting to ignite the spark that that was so well received in the first place. You know, there's Doc Mandel, the over the top Philip Burns. Look at him doing his he's stiffening it up all rigor mortis like. I mean, they literally rehash everything in this movie. There's nothing new. This film does not break any ground, unlike Return of the Living Dead Part 3, which breaks, some would say, too much new ground, but I love it for that. I love that movie so much. I'm going to talk forever about Return of the Living Dead Part 3, but we're not there yet. A man with very few morals. James Karen is the gravedigger named Ed. There you go. Keep moving on here. Tom Matthews and James Karen did that sequel, but it was like a remake. I have no idea why they didn't cast me, Don Kaffa. I'm sure that really bummed him out, man. I'm sure he was annoyed that his friends got in the movie and he did not. I would be too, man. I'd feel slighted. Here's Alan Trotman. I worked a total of 1 day on set, so I don't remember anything significant. That's too bad. Who's this guy? Looks like a Christopher Walken with a crazy mustache. Insert Derek Logren as one of Kenny Myers' special zombies. Myers hired a few actors to play the principal zombies, as this made makeup effects less costly. Fair enough. There's another shot of Forey. The film was produced at an arm's length, so it could be shot non-union. Ooh, that's not good. I think that's the ghoul that gets his jaw ripped off. I mean, the ghouls look great, man. The zombies look so much better. The zombies look great, but the Tarman looks terrible. The Tarman is nothing compared to the original Tarman, but it is cool to see that there is another Tarman. Alan returns with his trademark walk in a new version of the Tarman. This time, the Tarman's whole costume was designed by and created by Kenny, but it's not nearly as good as William Munn's. You can't deny Munn's and how well he did that. Below, James Karen gets to grips with Pussy Face, that Puss Face. Oops. Puss Face, I meant to say. Oops. I saw the P-U-S-S. So this was also played by Brian Peck, too. So that's Brian Peck played like every zombie in part 2. He played a lot of zombies. This might also be Brian Peck. I mean, he's literally no, this is an animatronic zombie character in Kenny Myers' workshop. Myers created a number of these for comedic effect. They include the hospital half corpse, Puss Face, and Jaw Zombie. That's Brian Peck. So Brian Peck there. So Brian Peck is literally just a featured special. He went from being a supporting character to just a featured zombie extra, but he got to be in a large chunk of the movie, just playing various different zombies. In Return of the Living Dead, we barely had enough time to make it to camera. The pieces were still wet. We learned a lesson in Return of the Living Dead about going for reality that we could not implement in part 2. Huh. And this photo is on the back of the cover art. You see that, and he's reattaching the jaw for his undead comrade, and that's also Brian Peck. Look at that. So that's Brian Peck, and that's him up there. Then that's him after they remove the jaw and he becomes animatronic. This is Lormar. Look at that. That zombie is freaky deaky, man. And there's Michael Kenworthy, the young Michael Kenworthy. I would be terrified to be next to that dude. There's Thor after he gets electrocuted and his face gets all burnt and gross. That's pretty good makeup, man. Can't deny the makeup. Thor in his zombie burns makeup. This is what they're eating. They're having carnation milk with lemon. I don't know what he's eating. He's eating salmon, it looks like. That's nice. Or chicken. And there's Kenny with the headless head. Get that screwdriver out of my head. And there's the animatronics behind it. Look at those eyeballs. kind of amazing to think you strip that down. It's probably that's the most valuable stuff. You can design stuff on it, and I guess if you want, you can reuse that stuff for different new things. Otherwise, you just got to keep on. How do you make something like that? Something so custom. And it's funny today, they would just laugh and go, we don't need to make that. We just do that in CG. We don't need CGI. We don't need to actually make that in real life. What are you, crazy? Wow, look at that. So there is so you got the two guys, right? That's the half corpse, which is played by an amputee. And here is the full corpse before the shotgun blast. Pretty grisly, if you ask me. And I always wonder that he has his fingers are I don't know if deformed is a nice word. I don't want to say be mean, but I guess that's what they are. He does have deformed fingers, and I always wondered that because when he's standing up, he does not, or at least I never notice it until he's on all fours. Having amputees play zombies really does sort of sell the gags because is that human element to the movement, but at the same time, it doesn't look right because you're like, whoa, but that person's missing a part of their body. So it really does kind of work. And I can't my daughter's awake. Is my daughter awake? I think she just woke up. Oh yeah, she's awake. I'm gonna have to go, guys. To end this. I'm just gonna end on this photo, which for so many reasons is so disturbing to me. There's Brian Peck. If you know who Brian Peck is or what Brian Peck has done, dressed up as Michael Jackson zombie. I'm just going to leave that there like that for that reason. I'm not going to say nothing else to say about that. They say a photo is worth 1,000 words. And I think this is a great example of a photo being worth 1,000 words. Originally, the Michael Jackson zombie was not included because, Thriller was really hot. This was Brian Peck's idea, too. Brian Peck came up with that idea. And Ken kind of rolled his eyes at it. And then finally, he let him jump in and do it at the last possible second he got to do it at the very end. And that's how goofy the movie had gotten. It had gotten so goofy that they're parodying Michael Jackson in the film. And Brian Peck was along for that ride. What can I say? There you go. And Michael Kenworthy is obsessed. He's all about it. Is that a camera? Brian Peck says, I don't think it was totally successful in balancing the horror and comedy aspects. I don't know that I would say it was too ridiculous. Perhaps it should have been even more ridiculous if emphasizing the comedy was the choice this time around. Here you go. There's the eyeball zombie. He gets his eyeball popped. The zombies look great, man. You cannot deny how great the zombies look in part 2. It's just the same that everything else is not so much. Yeah, I'm going to have to wrap this up. Yes. Thank you, Rue. Yeah, we're wrapping it up right now because I got to give my daughter some lunch. I'm going to do that. Just look at a couple more photos here. There's Forey getting his makeup done. Brian Peck says, I know there are people out there that did enjoy the film, and God bless them. I'm glad they liked it. For me, though, it just didn't really work. I'm sure at the time, though, he was all about it, thinking that he's going to, now be a part of the franchise. He really is the only connective tissue throughout the whole franchise. Him, Tom Fox, and John Penny, who would write part 3. Those are the 3 links that link all 3 of those films together. And there's Forey. Looks like a real goofball, man. Sci-fi legend. Forrest J. Ackerman gets fitted for his costume as the special zombie Harvey Kramer. Ackerman passed away in 2008. And here, once again, is Brian Peck as another principal zombie from rare publicity shot. Jonathan Terry says, one memorable event was that an extra was paid an additional $20 to eat cow brains for a shot. I did not inquire about the taste. That's Jonathan Terry. I don't know who that is. Jonathan Terry played somebody. Yeah. Ken says, after this film, I decided the way to stop making horror was just to stop, which is what I did. So he never made another horror film again. And you know what? I'm glad because Ken just sounds like he just has a really negative attitude. I don't know. That guy kind of bums me out, if I'm being honest. Uh-oh, got a zombie on the foot. There you go. Ken says, I never had much interest in horror movies, and the fact that I made a few is more than an accident of fate than any intention on my part. I have I think I have zero respect for Ken Wiederhorn. I just really that guy kind of annoys me. What an annoying thing to say. I don't know. All right, guys, we're gonna stop. So we're stopping it early because of my daughter. I gotta go feed her. So join me again, maybe tomorrow, perhaps, as we continue our deep dive on this book. And perhaps what we'll do is, man, I got some more books. Ooh, should we do Evil Dead? I could talk about that forever as well. That might be fun. All right, enough of this. I just hate to leave. I usually like to do this for an hour, but okay, it's done. It's done. All right, I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. Peace and hair grease, everyone. We'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Peace. Wait.